All right, so picture this. You're probably, I don't know, maybe commuting, maybe you're at the gym, getting ready for a deep dive into something interesting, right? Well, buckle up, because this one's a doozy. Imagine like a digital Fort Knox, right? A vault overflowing with crypto. And suddenly, poof, it's gone, vanished. That's pretty much what happened to Benzeo over at Bybit. We're talking about $1.5 billion in Ethereum, just gone. And get this, the trail seemed to lead straight to, well, North Korea.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? I mean, the sheer scale of it. We often think of North Korea as, well, technologically isolated, but here they are, a country facing some of the toughest sanctions in the world, not just dipping their toes into the crypto world, but like becoming a major player. And they're doing it by, pulling off these unbelievably massive cyber heists.
Yeah, exactly. We're not talking about some, lone wolf hacker in a basement. This is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
And it's not just brute force hacking either. It's sophisticated, it's strategic. I mean, you've got to wonder, how does a country with such limited internet access even manage to pull this off? And that's really what we're going to unpack today. We're going deep on the methods, the scale, the impact of North Korea's crypto hacking operation, and really trying to understand how they've turned this into, well, kind of a national strategy.
It's a wild story. And to get a sense of just how big this is, let's talk numbers. In 2023, North Korean hackers stole, are you ready for this, $661 million in crypto.
Okay, that's a lot.
That's a lot, right?
Very.
But hold on, because in 2024, they more than doubled that amount. They managed to pull off a total of $1.34 billion across, get this, 47 separate heists.
47. It's like they're running a digital crime spree.
It kind of is. And here's the thing. That $1.34 billion, that represents over 60% of all the crypto stolen globally in 2024. And that Bybit hack we talked about earlier, the $1.5 billion one, that's officially the single largest crypto heist in history.
I mean, those numbers are they're astronomical. But here's the thing that really struck me. We know North Korea has had, shall we say, creative ways of generating revenue in the past, right? We're talking overseas labor, maybe some illicit trade. But this cybercrime game, it's not just a side hustle. It's become a core part of their economic engine. There's a UN panel of experts report that estimated cyber theft made up half of North Korea's foreign currency revenue in 2023.
It's absolutely central to their strategy. And think about this. North Korea's total exports to China, their biggest trading partner, were actually less than a third of what they stole in crypto last year. They're making more from hacking than they are from actually selling stuff to their closest ally.
It's wild. But this level of expertise, it doesn't just appear overnight, right? There's got to be a story there.
Oh, absolutely. This has been a long game, a deliberate strategy that's been evolving for decades. It all really started back in the 1980s with their early computer science programs. But get this, the Gulf War was a real turning point for them. They saw how critical network technology had become in modern warfare.
So the Gulf War, which, seems like a world away from all this crypto stuff, was actually a key inspiration for their cyber strategy.
Exactly, and they were serious about it. They started identifying talented kids, especially in math, and sending them to special schools. According to Tae-young Ho, a North Korean defector, these students were even exempt from mandatory labor in the countryside. Initially, their cyber focus was more on traditional espionage and sabotage. But around the mid-2010s, there was a very clear shift towards cybercrime.
Interesting. So what sparked that change?
Well, reports indicate that Kim Jong-un himself saw the massive potential of cyber warfare, calling it, and I quote, an all-purpose sword. That strategic decision, along with the years they had already spent cultivating tech talent, set the stage for the kind of large-scale cyber heists we see today.
Okay, so they've got the brains, the motivation. Let's get down to brass tacks. How are they actually doing this? How does one go about robbing a digital bank?
Well, think of it in two stages. The first is getting into the system, like finding a secret tunnel into a bank vault. One of their favorite methods is phishing emails. But we're not talking about those obvious spam emails, the ones that are full of typos and promises of riches. These are incredibly well-crafted emails designed to look legitimate, and when you click, boom, they inject malicious code into your system.
So it's like a digital Trojan horse.
Exactly. Another tactic they use is posing as recruiters. They'll create fake job postings. They'll even do elaborate fake job interviews. And they specifically target software developers, people with access to valuable systems. The goal is to get those developers to open infected files or click on malicious links.
Oh, that's clever. They're going after the people who hold the keys to the kingdom.
Exactly. Andrew Fearman from Chainalysis, a firm that tracks crypto crime, has said they've become masters of what's called social engineering. Basically, they're manipulating people, using psychology to trick them into giving up access or information. A prime example is the Bybit hack. The hackers were able to compromise a developer working for a company that made digital wallet software. And that one vulnerability, created through social engineering, was all it took for them to steal billions.
So they've gotten into the vault, they've got the crypto, but they can't just walk into a bank and cash it out.
Nope. And that brings us to stage 2, which is just as important: laundering the loot. This is where their technical skills really shine. They use a technique called mixing, which basically involves scattering the stolen funds across tons of different digital wallets and then blending them with legitimate funds to make it harder to trace. They also do something called chain hopping, which is basically moving the money really quickly between different cryptocurrencies, again, to throw investigators off the trail.
It's like trying to follow a drop of ink in a swimming pool, but with digital money.
Perfect analogy. Tom Robinson from Elliptic, another blockchain analysis firm, has said that North Korea is the most sophisticated crypto launderer they've ever seen. And to actually turn that crypto into cold, hard cash, they use a network of underground services, a lot of them linked to, organized crime in China.
So they've got these shady middlemen who help them cash out. But I imagine those guys don't work for free.
Oh, definitely not. There are fees involved. And law enforcement is getting better at catching them and seizing some of the funds. But even with those losses, Nick Carlson from TRM Labs, another company tracking this, estimates that North Korea probably keeps around 80%, maybe even 90% of what they steal.
So even after paying their criminal partners, they're still walking away with, well, most of the loot.
Exactly, which is why this is such a lucrative business for them. But it does make you wonder, right? How does a country that's often described as isolated and, frankly, poor manage to become a cyber superpower? It's like finding out your grandma's knitting club is actually a team of elite hackers.
It's kind of baffling.
It is. But here's the thing. Kim Sung-ju, a professor at Korea University, explains that North Korea has a very centralized system. They can identify talent, like those math whizzes early on, and direct them to where they're needed. Unlike other countries, they don't have to worry about their top tech people leaving to work for, big companies.
So in a way, their closed-off system actually gives them an advantage in this area.
Exactly. And their performance in coding competitions really backs this up. In the 2019 International Collegiate Programming Contest, a team from North Korea came in 8th place, ahead of teams from top universities like Cambridge, Harvard, Oxford, Stanford. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment.
Wow, yeah, that definitely changes the picture.
It does. And on top of talent, they have a crazy work ethic. Reports say they work around the clock. Plus, they're really brazen. Jenny June, who studies cybercrime at Georgia Tech, she compares a lot of state-sponsored hacking to that Ocean's 11 approach. Get in, steal the goods, get out, all very quietly. But North Korea, they're loud. They don't seem to care if they're noticed.
So it's more of a smash and grab approach.
Yeah, exactly. And that probably has to do with the fact that the financial gains are so huge, they're willing to take the risk. So to answer your earlier question, yes, the money is a huge motivator. This stolen crypto has become a lifeline for the regime. International sanctions have been hitting them hard. The pandemic messed with their usual ways of making money. So this crypto hacking, it's a way for them to get hard currency, real money that's harder to trace and control. That UN report we talked about, it really drove home that point. This is a major, major source of income for them now.
It's not just about buying fancy stuff for the elites. It's about keeping the whole system running.
Exactly. And they're using that money for all sorts of things. There are reports of luxury goods flowing into North Korea for the top brass. But the real concern is that a lot of this stolen crypto is going directly into funding their missile and nuclear weapons programs.
Okay, so that raises a big question. What's being done to stop this?
Yeah.
Are we just letting them get away with it?
Well, it's not that simple. Crypto investigators and companies that analyze blockchain data are getting a lot better at tracing stolen funds. And major crypto exchanges and the companies that issue stablecoins, they're actually working more and more with law enforcement to freeze assets and disrupt those laundering operations. We've also seen some international efforts, like a joint initiative from the US, Japan, and South Korea back in 2023 that was specifically aimed at combating North Korean cybercrime. And the US has also been sanctioning some of those mixing services that we talked about earlier, the ones that help launder the crypto.
So there is some pushback. But it sounds like North Korea is pretty good at adapting. It's like a constant game of cat and mouse.
Yeah, it is. As soon as one method is shut down, they find a new one. For example, when some of their favorite mixing services got sanctioned, they just moved to other, less regulated ones. To really deal with this, you need global cooperation. Governments, law enforcement, the private sector, everyone has to work together. But unfortunately, there have been some setbacks in that area.
Like what?
Well, Russia recently used its veto power at the UN to shut down the panel of experts that we've been mentioning. That panel was really important for monitoring North Korea and their sanctions-busting activities, including this cybercrime stuff. And then there have been cuts to U.S. development aid that were aimed at helping vulnerable countries improve their cybersecurity. That could end up making them easier targets for North Korea in the future.
That's a worrying trend.
It is. And meanwhile, North Korea is doubling down. South Korean intelligence says they're actively expanding their cyber workforce. Plus, as the crypto market grows and moves into countries with, maybe less strict regulations, North Korea has even more potential targets. We've already seen them hit places like India and Indonesia.
So it's a never-ending battle, like trying to patch a leaky boat while it's still at sea.
That's a great way to put it. And it's about to get even more complicated. There's evidence that North Korea is starting to use artificial intelligence, AI, in their cyber operations. That means they could create even more sophisticated phishing attacks, the kind that are really hard to spot. And they might even be able to use AI to help them infiltrate companies, maybe by creating fake identities for remote workers.
AI-powered heists. Sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the Bybit hack, as massive as it was, might just be a taste of what's to come. So, to kind of sum this all up, North Korea, a country that many people think of as being isolated and behind the times, has become a major force in the cyber world, and they're using crypto as their weapon of choice.
Yeah. And it's not because they have tons of resources or a super advanced tech infrastructure. It's because they have a focused strategy, a ton of talent, and a desperate need for cash.
Exactly. And they've shown they're willing to adapt, to innovate, to take risks. They've turned cybercrime into a critical part of their survival strategy, and they're using it to fund some very dangerous programs.
It's a reminder that in this digital age, the old rules don't always apply.
Yeah.
And a small, isolated country can still have a huge impact on the global stage.
Absolutely. And this all leads to a really important question. How do we deal with this? How do we counter a threat that's constantly evolving, that's using cutting-edge technology, and that's driven by a regime that's, pretty unpredictable? It's a question that everyone, from governments to cybersecurity experts to everyday crypto users, needs to be thinking about.
Definitely. And if you want to learn more about this, we encourage you to dive deeper into the world of cybersecurity, blockchain technology, and the geopolitical realities of North Korea. It's a fascinating and frankly pretty scary intersection of technology and global politics.